You're taking on some of the heavyweights that are publicly traded, Salesforce, ServiceNow, and I'm interested as to how the agent force of Salesforce is something that you've already been doing at Creatio or having to play catch up on.
Hello, Caroline. So first of all, thank you very much for having me. Very excited to be here today and very excited to talk about the future of enterprise software. I can tell you that I've never been as excited about the industry as I am now. Even when the internet was developing, even at that time, I wasn't as excited as I am today, because the CRM and workflow automation software, no-code platforms that Creatio is building is going to look completely different in 3 to 5 years from now. Very exciting times.
Okay.
I mean, she's definitely right as far as all of this B2B. I feel like the B2B industry is moving faster and faster. It's, you know, finally catching up to consumer, especially with every app that's integrated. I think what some people would be so surprised to learn is that so many businesses, whether they're startups or even some of the largest enterprises you can imagine, these things are basically held together with duct tape. And even some of like their core systems. I know people that in the past, and not like 100 years ago, like just within the last couple of years, they had positions where at large companies, right, respectable companies, you would think, that their entire position in terms of like a good chunk of their day, like let's say 3-4 hours, was inputting numbers on one screen. Like he had 2 screens up on one page. And one number was in column A, and it needed to get into the second software and go into column B. So it's like 20. All right, let me go type 20. All right, and the next one's 40. I'm gonna go type 40. It's like, do you understand? And this is like a multi-billion-dollar organization. Do you understand how stupid that is, right? It's like, I'm sure you can kind of fathom it, but it almost seems hard to believe just how fucking ridiculously dumb that is. But it's the nature of the beast, because when you it's hard to keep things straight in a small business. How the hell are you supposed to keep it straight in a huge giant one? But what that means is big businesses, even if they're big and powerful, doesn't mean they're efficient, doesn't mean they're well run, doesn't mean there aren't huge opportunities and things that are slowing them down. And that means that obviously as you get more agentic AIs and more softwares and solutions that are highly integrated, highly automated, highly functional, you're going to start to, again, big businesses are slow right now compared to how fast they will be in the not too distant future. And that's
so it looks different because already
thought.
You've been helping basically people who can't code. But
yes.
Now agents, is it the co-pilot model just makes things even more bespoke? Have you not been deploying that already in previous iterations as now the market's caught onto it?
Yeah, brilliant. So Creatio has been AI native. And the biggest difference of Creatio from, you mentioned Salesforce, for example, is that we combine in AI Command Center all different patterns of AI. It's obviously generative AI, like AI Scales. It's agentic AI. It would be predictive AI. It would be prescriptive AI. So depending on the use case, again, you mentioned service. It could be sales automation, marketing automation. We're going to be doing the particular use cases, combining all different patterns of AI. And as it is AI native, it's not an additional module on top of it. It's not like we announced Creatio AI as a separate additional module and we charge for it. It's actually quite an opposite. We're not charging for it. It's the Creatio platform because AI is the central.
And you're going to see, notice they're selling pickaxes, right, outside of a diamond mine. And that's because that's what they can. It's way easier, right? It's like, why would I try and solve a problem in healthcare or a problem in fintech or a problem in manufacturing if I could just build a tool and then either have the individual customer, because they're like an efficient organization, or I'd be very curious, I imagine this happens, consultants use their tool, digital consultants, digital transformation consultants, whoever, to build systems and tools and solve problems for companies that currently struggle to integrate and utilize AI generally, and then definitely, you know, the agentic agent side of AI. It's one of those, we're at a very, my opinion, you know, is we're at a very interesting time period because we're like in the last days of the modern worker, right? We're in the last days of solving, I think, a lot of problems specific, like we're in the last days of solving problems in startup ways traditionally, because before it was, oh, the problem is I don't know how to, let's just say I was doing like let's see, what would be a good one, like an event booking company. Let's say I was doing an event booking company, and in the future or in the past, it's like, oh, that's a huge pain, and now I have to build this whole solution on how to like solve the problem. But in the future, if you have an agentic AI that can just go solve that problem for you as an individual consumer or as an enterprise, like an event booking company that wants to use agents to improve their efficiency, it's like, yeah, that makes sense, right? And now you don't need to have a solution to solve that. You just have tools that can solve that for your individual business. So I think there's going to be an interesting place where some companies continue to like create specialized, customized, highly tailored agentic AIs that get implemented for certain use cases. And then I see other places where they go, hey, there's this tool and we can customize this tool in a way that will meet our specific needs, especially if it doesn't fit with, you know, the standardized market needs, what have you.
Part of the platform.
Ultimately, with everyone offering some sort of form of agent and a lot of it helping with coding, how do you fend your territory, even if you're saying, you know, you're not having to pay extra for the generative AI or new AI applications that's in your heart, but once others have got their pricing sorted and they're already in the rooms of your customers, how do you fend the territory?
Yeah, brilliant. So first of all, let's start by saying that what Creatio AI delivers is two parts of the equation, if you will. From one end, it's no-code development, as you exactly correctly said. So with AI building the applications on our no-code platform. And the second part is using AI in the end user use cases like marketing automation, sales automation, service automation, you name it. So the combination of those two, this is the biggest power that Creatio delivers.
Build
and again,
it yourself and have a great engine.
It's not a separate module on top of the existing platform. It is the platform itself. So the experience of the user is completely different. The experience that we're building with the user, is creating for the user, is not the user learning how to use the software. It's AI. Creatio AI is learning how to collaborate with this particular end user of the application, because as we all know, English is the future programming language, and basically the collaboration between.
I think that's really interesting because it's a very common, I think, conversation in certain circles within tech or AI, but it's outside of the complexity of just building the AI in the first place and building these different tools. The problem of implementation, the problem of ongoing kind of execution using the tool and managing it, because you can have the best tool in the world, but if you don't know how to effectively turn it on and, you know, get resources out of it or have it accomplish tasks that you need done, your tool's useless, right? It's like having the cure for cancer and not having the instruction booklet on how to actually give yourself the dose. It's like, the cure is great, but you really need that instruction booklet. In the same way, that's why a lot of this no code, low code, all these different things are catching on and will continue to, because that's you can use this engine and you don't need to have the instruction book. You can just talk to it and it'll just build it itself. It's like, now we are really enabling the customer service and the customer kind of experience side of the equation, where I can go from having someone that needs to have knowledge about what they want to build and the skill to execute it, to knowledge of what they want to build and the ability to communicate it effectively to the tools that will build it. And the nice thing is, it's not like you get one shot. It's like ChatGPT. You can say, hey, build me this app, or build me this thing, or include this, or solve this problem, you know, complete this sales process in my organization. And then it does it, and it does it wrong. But it's not wrong like the whole thing is wrong. It's wrong by like 20%. And then you know what you do? You correct it and you fix it, and then it gets better and it remembers. And it is an employee that doesn't forget. Mind you, there are problems with systems and you get little phantom ideas where it makes up information and stuff, but all that's getting rectified as much as it can be. And I assure you, it will likely be a thing of the past very soon, and we will forget, that was a huge issue that we were so concerned with. And then we'll be more focused on what are all the things that we can do now that we can just talk to an AI and solve
the user
problems.
like yourself or myself with the workflow and CRM software in the future, it's going to be using the natural language. Using the natural language, I will be asking to create quotes, to create new digital campaigns, and it's very simple interface that is embedded in all the other applications that you're using as well.
The other thing that I think is so interesting is obviously for startups, there's always such a heavy focus on developers and having, technical knowledge. And while for the upper end, that's certainly going to continue to be true because, you can't just graduate from a code academy and then go build an advanced AI. I mean, maybe you can, but let's just say it's less likely. The big people, the people that need PhDs to do their development, like nothing has changed for them. Nothing ever, nothing will change for them for a long time because they're the ones that have the knowledge and are literally pushing the tech forward. But all of the junior developers, the small dev agencies, all of these places that rely on, and they're not like evil because of it, but they rely on the ignorance and lack of skill of the end consumer to deliver their value prop. Just like an accountant, just like a lawyer, if you were fully informed on every nuance of accounting law and tax, you would just do all your stuff perfectly in the same way you'd be your own lawyer. There's always information asymmetries, and in the middle, you suddenly get some value in some businesses. But it's such an interesting relationship to see how at the lower end of the change, the need for having competent development is actually dropping off because more and more people can just kind of develop themselves. But at the upper end, it hasn't changed. The interesting part that I find is it's kind of like the old, and this is just, again, we're speaking in terms of averages. This isn't true for everybody, but my dad, knew more about trucks than I did and do and ever will. And I know more about computers in terms of how to really dig into them, command prompt, install, find things. Again, just a modern millennial as far as pretty relevant computer understanding. It's I have that knowledge, and guess what? My kids will likely not have that knowledge. And if you go one step further, all that development knowledge, the skill to build the tools that are then relied on to make it simple, there's going to be, again, that concern of, are we going to lose the ability to basically build new tools or build tools that go beyond what we have? Not at the senior level, because again, they're pushing it forward, but more the juniors, where it's you're losing the skill to build the computer, right? Your kid can use an iPad, but he couldn't build a computer. And that's fine as long as we have iPads. And that's fine. And again, we're assuming, things continue in peace and harmony and all that good stuff, as much as you can have peace and harmony in the world. But it's one of those, there's this gap of knowledge that, again, if it doesn't cause a problem, it definitely has the potential to, if we have the whole bottom end of a market suddenly not care about coding, it's gotten kind of absorbed into it. And maybe it won't be an issue at all. Maybe it's me just, opining about nothing. But I find it interesting.
I'm really interested in adoption. And ultimately, that seems to be a bit of a bottleneck. We're hearing of late that there's been a plateauing of employees using the tools that have been invested in by the CEOs and the like because they're worried that they're being deemed lazy in some way or they're not getting the training that's necessary. But we also know that really to see real creativity, you just need to get this into users' hands and see how they adopt it. What have you seen at Creatio? How have people been using it and continuing to?
Yes, and listen, thank you very much for asking this question. There are two aspects of it. So the first aspect is everyone is building and developing the new AI skills, and Creatio does exactly the same. We're expanding the library of AI skills, meaning we expand the number of use cases that can be covered using AI. And again, the future, if you ask me about 2025, the future is that the user can do any CRM use case in Creatio AI without actually opening any other interfaces, just one Creatio AI interface and collaboration in English. So building those AI skills, it takes a little bit of time, but Creatio is definitely in a front runner here. But from the other side, let's talk about the pricing part of it, because in a case of Creatio AI is literally the platform itself. So all our users who have the base licenses of Creatio, they already have access to Creatio AI. While in other cases with our competitors, they do need to buy additional licenses in order to start this adoption process. So partially,
this is a big one that a lot of people don't realize. Sometimes the only thing you have to do, like obviously it sounds like their company's doing a lot more. Sometimes the only thing you have to do is enable a less painful experience of purchasing a product. Like for the easy example is I have a buddy that wants to build a tech solution, and the whole premise of his tech solution is the current version is basically enterprise grade only, meaning it's like 30K a month. You have to implement all these shit. Like it's a whole experience just to use the software. And his value prop is, similar to, it's a lot and a lot of money and a lot of effort to use Salesforce, and then HubSpot comes along. It's like, well, hey, what if I just build, the core features that I rely on in it? I don't use 90% of what they offer me. And why don't I make onboarding really easy? And why don't I make the pricing much more in line and not overcharge them like crazy? And boom, you have a business. And it seems so logical. It seems so simple. It is. The execution of building that business, doing it well, managing the customers, managing all the things, that is the hard part. That is the complex part. But the part of, is there a value prop here that makes sense, can often be really black and white.
I guess, again, I don't know exactly the Salesforce numbers, but I would guess that would be partially the reason why their adoption is not as fast as they would expect or predict.